Knight finale, what we liked about that episode and the show as a whole. We haven't really had a chance to talk about Moon Knight too much, but just wanted to get your thoughts and impressions on the Moon Knight season finale or show finale, because they're saying there that there won't be a season 2. We'll see about that. But what were your impressions with that finale? What were your thoughts? And at least, the way the season started and the build-up that they had up until this point of the series.
I want more Moon Knight, man. I don't care how bring him out in the movies, give him a season 2. I want more Oscar Isaac and dang, I forget her net character, but she was one of my favorites. The actress who played his wife in the show. The Scarlet Scarab. That was awesome.
Yeah, Layla, yeah.
Layla, yeah. I want to see more of all those characters. They were all unique. It was all different take. It was just really cool to see the characters develop. Because I'll be honest, the first, I think, 2 episodes, I was like, I liked it, but I was like, man, like, I want to see a little bit more, But it really helped build up the characters by the end of the season. Yeah. So it's just some Jake Lockley action. I hope that he only speaks Spanish, because it makes sense. If you watch the first episode, or I think it was the second one, where they hint that some personality was flirting with that coworker, I believe she was Spanish too, so it makes sense that he would be talking to her in Spanish and be able to pick her up. So I was like, oh, I really hope that he just speaks Spanish. That would be hysterical. Like, it's perfect.
Dano, thoughts?
It was a really good series, really awesome characters. It was very interesting how they told the story, like, the experience of the character and the what he's going through, and from a perspective that almost has the audience, at least me, like, not fully piecing together everything initially. And I think he was also trying to figure it out, so we're all just watching this trying to figure it out. And so that kind of pacing was really good throughout the series, because you kind of have to keep watching it to get to what is actually going on here. So it was really dope, and the effects were cool. The characters were great, and it had a nice balance of drama, action, and comedy. Because there were some Oscar Isaac actually made me laugh. I'm just like, some unexpected stuff, and it was cool.
They did a really good job with the show as a whole. Even with the what was it called? Dissociative identity disorder.
Mm-hmm.
I think they treated that very respectfully, and they told that story very well, and you really got to see from the character's perspective the trauma and how he dealt with everything. But what I really liked about it too, and you guys made a really good point with, which was with the way the story was told, that we were experiencing as much confusion with what was going on as Mark and Steven were experiencing, right? Because the entire time they're confused. They don't know what's going on. We're experiencing that with them, because we're like, what the hell is this? And by the time they get to episode, halfway through episode 4, right? It was the second half of the episode where they end up going into the asylum. It kind of throws you for another loop. Like, wait a minute, just when I thought I was kind of getting a grasp on what this show was, you throwing us for another loop. So the following episode 5, called Asylum, was the entire episode was in the asylum, and you're just kind of going through this whole experience with them, where you don't know what's real, you don't know what's not real, and where is this going, right? I think when it got to episode 6, it kind of brought it back to this, okay, let's get everybody comfortable with what this show is supposed to be, and that's a superhero show, right? Because at the end of the day, we all signed up for Disney Plus for either Star Wars or Marvel, and when we watch a Marvel product, we want to see a comic book movie, we want to see a comic book show. And throughout the whole series, this show was so different that it didn't feel like a comic book show, right? It was still intriguing. It was still really fun to watch, but we didn't see the superhero aspect of it. Very rarely we did. Yeah, we saw Moon Knight here and there, fighting some bad guys, fighting some supernatural jackals and stuff. But most of the story was centered around Mark. It was centered around Steven. It was centered around Layla. Even Harrow, the villain, which I think Ethan Hawke freaking killed it. As much praise as I give Oscar Isaac, I gotta give Ethan Hawke as much praise, because as a villain, he killed it. And even in that last episode, Homeboy he had conviction. And the same way he was trying to judge people, he was telling Ahmed, "Judge me, I'm ready." The battle scenes right at the end, the climax of the episode, where we had the giant kaijus fighting by the pyramids, which visually looked great, right? But then you had Harrow and Moon Knight and Layla all kind of fighting down below. What were your thoughts on that climactic battle scene?
I mean, some other superheroes better watch this on the news and be like, "Who's that guy?" Yeah, I want to see like Blade paying attention, developing the Midnight Suns, I think it is. Or yeah, like I want to see that whole team develop. Some of the CGI looked a little, not perfect, but it's a show. Except for what it is, it still look awesome. I just wonder how, this had to be seen across the whole world. So I want to know how is this going to impact the MCU. With Khonshu and all these gods coming out, and then all the other gods that were shown as a statue, and then what happened with the battle, what happened at the end, when Mark blacks out, and then obviously Jake took over, but I kind of want to see what happened. What does he have a different suit? Does he have a different ability? Because he was out, he was losing that fight. And then what happened with Layla? She's there 1 second, then he wakes up in the bed and just kind of restarts all over again, and she's gone. Like, is she gonna have a series spinoff of her own to explain what she's doing? Because now she's an avatar, she has responsibilities of herself. It's kind of cool. I just want to see what they go moving forward from that fight, and then all those souls, all those deaths that they didn't even touch about. A lot of people were killed.
Yeah, Jonathan nailed it. There's a lot of, it was left with a few unanswered questions, which is fine. It's cool. It was just more where there's pieces that we didn't get that are missing, and it will be cool to see some what are the effects of that stuff. What are the powers what are the things that we didn't get to see, and how is this gonna tie into the MCU? Because there was no tie-in. I think throughout the series, there's nothing to hold in with everything else we've been watching for the last few years.
Yeah, and you know what? I gotta give them props for that, because they could have easily at any point said, "Oh yeah, let's throw a cameo here or whatever," and I like that they feel confident, or they at least felt confident enough in Moon Knight to say, we don't need that. We don't need to kind of bring in another character, because this character, this story, these actors and their performance is strong enough that the show can carry itself, right? And really, this is the first time where we see a Marvel movie take place in Egypt, right? And the world is big enough where you don't need to see Spider-Man swinging through the pyramids, right? And Spider-Man, I'm using him as a loose example, but we don't know the status of the Avengers, right? I believe that once an Avenger, always an Avenger, but there might not be an actual team formed right now. We don't know where that's at. I mean, they're still building fixing the Avengers headquarters. So, and who's leading the team? There's no Tony, there's no Steve, there's no Thor. So I don't think we will see, or we should see, Avengers anytime soon. So I'm actually proud of Marvel to not connect it to anything else. Which I think it was, at the end, it was a great creative choice, because listen, everybody loves Moon Knight now. Everybody wants to see a sequel to the series, or watch a movie. And I personally think it's going to be one of two things: either we'll see him make an appearance in another movie, most likely Blade, because that's the only movie I can think of that he will come out in, or we're gonna get an announcement that, oh, we're gonna do a Moon Knight movie. And you guys have seen sort of like his background. We don't need to touch on all of that. Now we can just focus on Moon Knight, the superhero, going out and getting vengeance and taking evildoers out. Which, it was really great the way they set up Jake Lockley, because it wasn't like he just came out of the blue, out of nowhere. No, he's been there since episode 1. You know, they at least hinted at him since episode 1, which was really great. And even like, if anybody had doubt of, well, where did Jake come from? When was this personality created? Blah, blah, blah. Well, keep in mind that Steven, he loved his mom. He never knew that his mom was whooping him and beating him. You know, he was having conversations with his mom. And that's why Mark created the Steven persona, to kind of shield him from all the trauma of his mother. So when his mother used to come into the room with the belt to whoop him, it wasn't Mark, it wasn't Steven, it was Jake. And that's why Jake Lockley has like that violent tendency, because he used to be the one to take the brunt hits of his mother's wrath and beatings, right? So throughout the whole season, when we see somebody bloodied up, dead, or whatever, like, that was the aggressive side of Mark, which was Jake Lockley. And at the very end, it was really cool that they saved it for the after credit scene, because there was already a lot going on with the series, and we didn't need to add the third personality, but they at least laid the foundations, right? And it wasn't something that it just came out of nowhere. It made sense for that character to show up. And as far as his suit, I believe he's gonna have a different suit. I think in the comic books there was one iteration of the suit which was really cool, where he still had the white hood and the white cape, but the armor, the way it looked, it was like if it was a fully black outfit, but it had like white armor plating. So it would be cool if his suit would look something like that, right? But we'll see. And again, for the movies, if they do a Moon Knight movie, they obviously have to redesign the outfit, so it makes sense for it to be based on Jake Lockley's persona. They need to sell toys, so.
And they should do some black to kind of represent his darkness. Because
Exactly.
that character smile was like, yo, he's walking on that evil level. He's killing nurses, like some innocent people, man. Like, he was taking lives like it didn't mean nothing. And I really love the fact that he kicked over the wheelchair. That was hilarious. So get out of my way, you know. But and then I also think like one of my, like, I don't know what to call it, like a theory would be that Mark doesn't know that he's filthy rich, because that was a Phantom Rolls Royce limo that he's driving, and the license plate was Red Spectre. So it'd be cool if they kept that a secret too, because in the comics he's like the Marvel's version of Batman, which he is rich and he makes his gadgets, and they kind of changed it in the show. But it would be cool to know that if Jake knows that about him, you know, and Khonshu is kind of keeping secrets from Mark the way that Mark was keeping secrets from Steven. So it's that in depth. I did read this morning that they originally had plans to show, because you were mentioning the Avengers, that they were planning to show the Eternals, a battle in the past between Khonshu and some of the Eternals fighting alongside Khonshu with one of his old avatars. I think that would have been cool, you know, because it shows, or even like, you know, the Black Knight, one of the ancestors, because then it'll tie in all those heroes together. But I'm excited to see where they go in the future. I feel like at this point now, this is phase what, 5 or 4?
Phase 4.
Phase 4. So Marvel kind of already knows, like, hey, we have this huge fan base, right? What can we do different than what we've done in the past? In the past, they've kind of given cameo scenes and everyone such a strong fan base that we've kind of been able to tell what's coming up next based off those cameo scenes. So now they know it's like, okay, we're not even going to do that. We're going to leave everything for the last minute to surprise everyone. They're working really hard to keep everything really tight-knit and keep these secrets from us. So I think that's what they're doing. And even like watching all the latest Marvel movies and shows, Loki really didn't leave a lot open-ended. WandaVision, Strange and Multiverse of Madness, Moon Knight. Like, we really don't have an idea of where they're going. Eternals, like, they're showing new characters and developing the characters, but not so much the story. They're kind of keeping that tight. We all know it's going to end up with Kang somehow, but do we really, like, there's something else that we're all missing and we don't have yet. That's
Yeah.
how I feel.
To your point, it's great that he's a standalone. Like, this series wasn't tied into anything, but I eventually want to see how he'll tie into everything. If he does, maybe he never does. He's in a multiverse dimension where he is the only hero out there.
Yeah, that could still be the case. Yep. Well, I'm pumped. I'm ready to see and hear more about Moon Knight. I'm hoping that Kevin Feige decides to give us some information after their retreat, their creative retreat, and we kind of hear what's coming up next after Fantastic Four, because that's where they stop. We don't know what else is planned after Fantastic Four. So